How to Be Helpful is a class that I wish that all of my relatives would go to. I think the question of how to be helpful is a really underexplored question. And there's two different main places where I believe one could go with it that correspond to, in Chinese medicine, greater Ganying and lesser Ganying. Lesser Ganying is the five element world of how to be helpful to you in the ways that you find things helpful that I wouldn't find helpful, and that I want you to help me in this way, you want that. So there's a whole very, very rich world of how to be helpful in that differential way that I explore more in the elements. That's not what I do in the whole heart connection side of things, which is called greater Ganying, or how to be principles of helpfulness that apply to everybody, universal principles of helpfulness, which means they're going to be very bare bones in certain ways, very foundational, and in some ways, therefore, more profound and less obvious on the surface. The first thing we need to look at in terms of how to be helpful has to do with, where does healing come from anyway? It's not like it doesn't come from one person squeezing it out of their tit for another. Or at least that's a kind of helpfulness that could also be called enabling and could also be called exhausting. And, in an emergency, maybe that's what you need to do. Or if you genuinely are the mother of a helpless child. Most people are not helpless except when they are disconnected from the sources of healing. What we call the big heart, or in Chinese medicine, the microcosmic Shen, and heaven and earth. One of the things we learn in whole heart connection, more in the mentorship level, usually, is how to be a good assistant, whether if it's an assistant for a whole class, an assistant for a nation, assistant for a particular individual who is in distress. And it's from what I call the Me First School of Healing. It's how do I be helpful on a me first basis so that there isn't burnout rate, and so that it isn't a subtle form of colonization either. There are a lot of people who resist being helped. I'm one of them. Often, if we feel like in order to be helped, we also have to be kind of colonized at the same time, taken over in a way. Here, let me help you. And so with the best of intentions, people want to help, but it often feels more like being deformed. So what is necessary first? First is going to be feeling our own connection to heaven and earth, otherwise known as our alignment, strongly. So we will spend some time refocusing on that in ourselves, and then learning how to do that with generosity with someone else. We will practice in class. We will take turns looking at someone, having someone, if they're willing, take the role of the sufferer. I'm being ridiculous, but like someone, if anybody is willing to be in the role of, what, I'm not actually in great shape right now. Could use some help. Not some colonization, not interference, but actual help. And the feeling of being with that person, feeling my connection to the ground, and feeling it as an invitation to their connection to the ground. Not pushing it, not making them do it, but just going ahead and, for my own health and theirs, witnessing it. Whatever else you're going through, however much pain you're in, you got this, babe. You got this. and feeling at the same time my connection to the heavens and starting to breathe. Now, breathing, especially breathing while being in compassionate entrainment with another person, really rocks the boat a little bit. Because if they're trying not to cry and you start breathing with them, I'm like, wait, I'm trying to surprise. Breathing is the main way that we regulate our emotional life and our body. Breathing or connection to the heavens before any human connection, before any circumstance, is the borderlands between naturalness and unnaturalness. We breathe naturally. We also breathe unnaturally. And what we're wanting to do, what we are offering the opportunity for, is connecting with the sky, connecting with breathing the sky, which is how we are in intimate relationship with the sky, as naturally, as uncontrolledly as possible. It is true that sometimes all we do is help someone be connected to the ground so that there's some stability there, because you can't fall apart unless there's something stable. We need to be held. And connecting to the heavens, not as an idea, not as up there, but as here. And breathing that, or being breathed. It's really more of a feeling of being breathed. And there's this really weird feeling of, oh shit, you're messing with me. But it's not, you're not messing with the person. The impulse of returning to authenticity and naturalness, the impulse of return to autonomic breathing rather than coping breathing, it's there. And then whoever you're with, they can duke that out. Even just peeking out of their hotel room door at it is actually, it's helpful. It's like, okay, there have been times when, you do this with somebody and then they go off and they go cry in the other room because they got the feeling of that there is a state of being held securely enough that you can go, wow, and there is a natural restorative rhythm. The breathing carries us through so much, the rebirthing stuff. Like, you can, how we breathe, it often feels like a hijack coming from some more primitive place. Sobbing, for instance, is amazing. It's like, how do you just completely overthrow the ways that you've colonized yourself? A minute of sobbing will do it. I may be belaboring the sobbing, the crying, all that stuff. All of it, it may just be a sigh of relief as the internally imposed corset starts to come off, just through being with somebody in a state of generosity, but me firsting it. One of the things we're going to be looking at is both our own alignment and our connection. Because me just, I'm gonna impersonate me being in my own alignment, but not connecting. I'm over here in my alignment, watching you. And it doesn't really change much. I'm like, or I can even still be like in my own alignment, but not really connected. It's like, okay, I'm coming closer. But nothing actually really happens. The feeling of alignment and a very simple generosity, the generosity that, two horses in the same field feel towards each other. It's not a huge or excessive thing. Just the generosity that trees feel towards bumblebees and bumblebees feel towards flowers. Just simple stuff opens a door. People may be a little less used to that over the internet, so we'll practice it. It's not actually that hard, especially when you have somebody giving you automatic feedback. And it's a wonderful feeling to be able to, even if you're not feeling like a wreck, to have somebody help. It's like, oh, all right. Like you're holding my emotional groceries, help, like I can like, great. It's very helpful. I hope you come, give it a go, learn how to assist. If we have time, there's a number of other layers of assisting and ways of being helpful that incorporate the Wei Yin and Yuan practices as well. But this is a good start. And depending on where the group wants to go, we'll go where we go from there. All right, see you there.